Dying Light has a ton of amazing weapons, but there's a few of them that are on a completely different level. This is a developer blueprint. Basically, these are hidden weapons the developers added to the game that you can't get through normal gameplay. Normally, you can't use these on Nightmare difficulty, but there is one though that breaks that rule. Meet EXPCalibur, one of the most famous weapons in the franchise. In this video, I'm going to try to beat the game using only this weapon to see just how strong it is. And to make sure I push it to its absolute limit, I'm going to do it on Nighrunner Mode's Extinction difficulty. This could go very badly, so let's get started. Future FP here. I also forgot to mention that I'll be doing this all without any heads-up display to make it that much more difficult. The only exception to this is the stamina bar for running and fighting. I couldn't turn that off because it was added in by the mod. But things like the map, compass, and HP bar will all be turned off for this playthrough. Before we get started, my goal for the end of this year is to get to 100,000 subscribers. As a reminder, if we hit the goal before the end of this year, I'll do a super special challenge that'll no doubt take me months to finish. Okay, back to the video. As always, we start off the journey by making a brand new save on the hardest difficulty possible. As a reminder, in case you don't remember what Extinction difficulty is or what the Nighrunner mod changes, this is the pop-ups for Massacre and Extinction modes. We're airdropped into Haran, and before I know it, I'm meeting with Raheem. He speaks to me like he's my dad and sends me to boot camp for parkour. But after completing the long list of chores he wants me to finish before leaving, I'm allowed outside and the world becomes a lot more open than it was a few minutes ago. Since this is an EXPCalibur only challenge, I pretty much instantly race my way straight to where you find it, since I won't be able to defend myself from any zombies without it. If you somehow don't know where to find it, just slow down the video and follow where I go. Once you're here, all you have to do to get it is pull it out of the stone by holding interact on it for like 3.5 minutes. If you're unfamiliar with this weapon, let me show you what it's capable of. The damage is fairly high for something you're able to just go and get whenever you want, but this is offset by it having a grand total of 7 durability. You can't repair it, but it'll still do a tiny bit of damage even while it's broken. But that's not really the main reason why people usually get this thing. 4! Unfortunately, this ability that made the weapon so special didn't make it into other games, but I'm going to take full advantage of it while I have it. Oh look, it's finally done. And of course, I did remember to pick up the actual blueprint for it as well. Now that we've gotten a weapon to defend ourselves with, I feel much safer going ahead with the story. I head to Zara's RV, get my shot, have an intense stare down with my mortal nemesis Mutton Chops, and talk to Spike, who sends me out to set up some card traps for Brecken's night mission to get Samantas in. Since my weapon, like I said, only has 7 durability, I'm going to try to save those hits for when I desperately need them. So for the next little while, I zigzag through zombies using parkour whenever possible to get the objectives completed. So remember like 12 seconds ago when I said I was saving the durability for some desperate situation? Well, I changed my mind. I'm using them against him. It's the fight of the century, one I know you've all been waiting for. The last few times I fought him, I was unable to do anything because of the nature of the challenges I was doing at the time. This time around though, while my EXPCalibur might not be the best tool for the job, it's the best chance I've had in quite a while to get another point on my side of the scoreboard. So, we fight. At this point in the playthrough, I don't even have the ability to dodge yet. My only hope of doing any damage to him without exchanging attacks is to run at him, attack, and then turn around and sprint away as fast as possible. A cowardly strategy, but one that works. Eventually, I lead him to this tank on the ground, intending on getting him to explode himself. But he reads my move and explodes me right alongside him. Thanks to not being able to see my health bar because of the no HUD part of the challenge, I have no idea just how hurt I really am. I run to the top of this building to bandage myself, but I can tell I'm still hurt because of the blood trickling down my face the whole rest of the fight. Jeffrey tries to get his minions to attack me, but they're no match for the power of EXPCalibur. He ends up getting quite the couple of hits on me, and I even ran out of bandages to use. But after about 20 more precise attacks, I finally managed to take him out and claim this victory for myself.
Fantastic!
Alright, since I won that fight, I think we can reward ourselves with a better outfit. Now this. This is what I'm talking about. So far, we've been performing fairly well considering the challenges I've plagued myself with in this playthrough. When it comes to EXPCalibur being the only weapon I can use, the main thing I've noticed is since the normal attacks are extremely weak and my main method of defense is just, you know, extreme knockback, that just about means that I'll never get any power XP, since that's tied directly to killing an enemy in some way. Luckily for me though, during a lot of these beginning missions, as I mentioned earlier, you don't even need need to use your weapons all that much to progress. I basically just run around and avoid zombies wherever possible. But when EXPCalibur and the overall lack of defense doesn't cause me issues, Extinction difficulty and not having a heads-up display does. Eventually, while helping Jade find Antizin, I slowly watch it become dark outside, which leads me to my first night experience in the playthrough. And let me tell you, it took everything I have just to barely survive. You can't see my health, so I can't give you visual clarification. But the only reason I survived my first encounter with volatiles is because certain cutscenes fully heal you in this game. I'm not sure of the exact number, but normally you won't naturally heal past 5 to 10 HP without a specific skill. So I'll take whatever free healing the game wants to throw at me, thank you very much. After a quick change of pants and talking to Brecken and the crew, I determined that I'll be the one to go to Rise to ask for some Antizin. That cutscene just gave me another free full heal, and now it's time to set out once again. But even though I'm back to 100%, that in no way means I'm out of danger yet. In fact, now that it's night, I'm about to face my biggest challenge so far. As a reminder, you're not able to sleep in Extinction difficulty, so just get that the heck out of here. What this means is that we're not able to skip the night, and I'm going to be forced to go out into the dark and deal with volatiles that 1. Absolutely love to spit acid at me, and 2. Have the ability to instantly kill me if they hit me. On top of all of that, this difficulty also makes it so that I can't detect zombies with survivor sense, and volatiles will instantly spot me if I'm at all within their cone of vision. Let me just show you how long I lasted trying to get to Rise's garrison for the first time. I did eventually make it to Rise's garrison and completed the mission after a handful of deaths, but that didn't mean the night was over. Remember, days and nights are longer now, so we've got quite a while to go until morning rolls around. I could just sit here and wait for the next 30 minutes, but that wouldn't be very entertaining. I would love to tell you that I successfully made it to my destination against all odds, narrowly escaping all the creatures of the night to make it to the next objective, but I simply didn't make it. Since I died so many times on the way to the garrison in the first place, my health was about right here. And when you're that low, practically everything is going to kill you in one shot. I didn't even encounter any volatiles this time, but I got grabbed after missing my swing, and I don't even know what happened to me there. What happened to me? Eventually though, even though it doesn't look like it because of the thunderstorm, it became daytime and I was actually able to make it to where the toad was waiting for me. And let me tell you, it felt amazing to finally be making some progress. From there on, things actually started looking up for me, other than the occasional mishap. The next few missions were pretty simple to pull off. In order to help my dude Firkin, all I had to do was practice my aim and launch zombies into one another until they either died or spontaneously fell into locations where they couldn't stand up. Then all I had to do for the gunman Kareem wanted me to investigate was this.
And they just stopped.
Someone get this man. I don't think he can be trusted with breakable objects. By this point in the game, I think I'm finally beginning to adapt to the challenge. I mean, it's about time. I've been playing this thing for about 3 hours at this point. When it comes to my skills, unsurprisingly, my agility is just barely the highest, while my survivor rank isn't far behind. And we've really ended up leaving our power level at the starting line. When it comes to the survivor tree, I'm not really trying to get anything in particular. The main skills I would normally be hoping to get are pretty much everything in this camouflage section. After all, if I can camo myself, I can avoid any unnecessary encounters. But since that would make for a pretty boring video, I stay away from that skill. When it comes to the agility tree, I'm basically desperate at this point to get anything in the forward roll section. Usually this skill is like one of the first you obtain after starting the game, so you don't even want to know the amount of times I've almost died because I don't have it yet. It always takes me a little while to adapt to a challenge, and here it's no different. A good example of this is when it came time to meet Jade in the boxcar and begin the fated school mission.
Hello.
Usually this single-handedly is responsible for at least 15 deaths, but this time around, since there's so many places for me to drag their faces across the ceiling and then lodge them somewhere, the school was a pretty free piece of cake. I actually didn't end up dying even one time during this half of the siblings mission. EXPCalibur really pulled through for me in this case. It gives me a lot of confidence for later on when we have to go save Zara, but I'm still not sure how I'll fare against the gunman later. Just because this mission was a success, that doesn't mean that all the rest of the missions are going to be that way too. In fact, pretty much directly after the end of the siblings quest, things begin to prove difficult again. Oh my god, I forgot about that. Luckily, I already know how to handle this guy in this particular instance, so he doesn't pose much of a threat to me by himself. All you have to do is smack him as he's climbing, jump down, and repeat the process. But these types of enemies from here on start becoming much more frequent as we run around the open world of the game. The one you really don't want to mess with is the sprinting goon guy. He doesn't stagger if you hit him, and you'll die in 1 or 2 seconds if he catches up to you, since he does that windmill thing that virals love to do. So you can bet that I'll be avoiding them to the best of my ability. Oh, it just occurred to me that I forgot to include the bit with catching the bolter, and some of you may be wondering how I got him. So let me walk you through how I went about that mission. Usually when you exit the school after obtaining the explosives, you have a small window of time where it's still nighttime. But since I got obliterated by this volatile, I didn't have the time to get the quest and kill the bolter in the same night anymore. So I had to wait the entire day to pass, since obviously bolters only come out at night and Extinction doesn't let you sleep to pass the time. So in the meantime, I completed quarantine zones, ran around aimlessly, looted, did Ghazi's quest, started Alfie's quest, looted some more, wandered around aimlessly some more, went scuba diving for underwater algae. Then after 2 hours, I finally decided to just switch off Extinction, make it nighttime, and make it Extinction again to save time. From there, all I had to do was chase after the bolter as he was running until he randomly tripped over nothing, and I was able to get the bolter tissue we needed to continue the quest. And to think, this could have all been avoided had I just made it to the bolter like 20 seconds before I actually got there. Oh, and this is my outfit now. Not important to what I was mentioning, but I just thought you'd like to know. With the siblings mission done, it's time to unfortunately start the next mission, the pit. If you've ever played this game before or watched any of the rest of my videos, you'll know exactly why I distorted my voice like that. Gunmen have appeared in this game before this point, but after completing this mission, they'll really start showing up more and more throughout the game. Awesome. Because, you know, it's not as if the game was already difficult enough or anything. So after Crane lets his intrusive thoughts win and front flips out the window, we're summoned to go and defend Zara's lab. If you told me the beginning of this mission was responsible for most of the deaths throughout the game among the player base, I would be inclined to believe you. I have thousands of hours in this game at this point, and the gunmen still give me issues to this day. The only reason I didn't die right off the bat when entering Zara's compound was for the fact that I know exactly where the gunman is, and that I know I need to take care of him first before all the rest of the enemies. But even still, as you can see, I almost screwed it up and died. I tried knocking him into the fire at first, which would have been easily doable if I was allowing myself to kick in this challenge, but the basic attack provides practically no knockback, so I had to quickly change up the strategy. By this point in the game, I've pretty much gotten used to the trajectory path that these guys fly in when I smack them with my sword, so I just knock them into the fire. Not many would come back from that, I don't think. Once he was gone though, I just practiced my swing on these guys like they were human golf balls, launching this guy in particular out into the streets where virals could attack him, and sat back and waited for the mission to complete. We meet again, mutton chops. Considering how successful the school mission was due to its enclosed level design, I think it's pretty predictable how infiltrating the garrison went. The most difficult part being that I had to make my way through the night to get there. I'm pretty sure I made it there without dying this time because I put on the ninja outfit in preparation. But this game stops being nice to me the instant I set foot inside the parking garage. I mean that seriously, by the way, I died so fast. Who'd have thought that bringing this dusty old decrepit sword that I pulled out of a rock into a gunfight would be a bad idea? I mean, just who could have known? Between this and the Savior's Passage gunman, dying pretty much became second nature to me at this point. If you look hard enough, there's places all around where you could lodge them somewhere and take them out. But actually getting to the enemy and putting them there is a whole different matter entirely. It would have been so much easier if I didn't have Extinction difficulty enabled, but because it is, I don't have access to something like a resistance booster that pretty much makes you immune to all damage. The best Extinction mode can do for you in this case is 25% damage reduction and a handshake. These types of missions though, usually you're fine so long as you trade a death for a kill, since you can come back from death, but they can't. So after a bit of time, I take out enough of them to even the odds and finally overcome them. I'm sure you know what comes next. We get Zara, Rise just kinda into existence, and it's time we face off against our very first Demolisher. But FP, how are you gonna take out the Demolisher? You don't even have your sword. Well, you're right, I don't. But over the course of all the challenges I've done so far in this game, I've developed a strategy so intense, I don't even need a weapon to take him out. That strategy is jumping on his head until he dies. This took a while. Like, a really long time. And to make it worse, I didn't even know if it was working since I couldn't see his health bar. But eventually, he dies. and we can escape, launching us right into the next area. Side note, but I gotta say, introducing the area with this type of weather is super cool. It's not usually like this for me. I think it's due to the mod changing the weather patterns a bit. The reason we're here in Old Town is to deliver some samples to Camden. Jade was supposed to do this job, but she just kinda... after overhearing her brother died, since she blames Crane or something. But after looking for her at this safe zone and not finding her, I just give up. I've searched one place and I'm all out of ideas. So instead, I meet back up with Troy because I have to go prevent us from being blown up by guys in planes. The first couple of times I played this game, I thought getting to Old Town meant I was about halfway through the story. I mean, technically according to the game, it still is, but to me, we're about 75% done at this point since the latter half of the quests in this game are kinda underwhelming. But there is a couple big things I still need to be prepared for before we get to them. So I'm gonna take this moment to take one final look at the skills I'll be going in with. The only thing I had to make sure I got in the survivor tree is this skill. It allows you to craft the rebreather. If you don't have access to this rebreather when you need it, you're going to essentially be locked out of doing some quests. When it comes to agility, I decided I'd rather prioritize health regeneration and mobility since I die so much. And for power, we're just not going to talk about power. There's basically no skills in the power tree currently available to me that are useful with only being able to use EXPCalibur, so I just don't spend anything. Since it takes so long to level up, these are the skills I'll have basically the whole rest of the game. And with that, I go meet up with Michael to start up the next mission. When it comes to the apartment complex mission where I have to set the charges and blow them up, as long as I take my time and don't rush the process, there's not a whole lot of things that can kill me here. At least, not until things really started ramping up. Toads, they'll kill me. Bombers, killed me. Heck, the normal biters are still taking me out at this point. I've been doing this challenge for about 9 hours, and let me just say, it's gotta be one of the worst feelings I've had in the challenge to expect to hit the zombie and they go fly away, but you just freaking miss them entirely. It's gotten me killed a few times too. There is a trick you can do to bypass this entire section with the screamer, but we don't do it. And that small decision was single-handedly responsible for the next 15 deaths that were to come directly afterward. I could not for the life of me get a break with the toads, and the screamer itself was difficult to silence since Crane covers his ears whenever he comes near it, and it locks you out of doing anything other than dying. But finally, I was able to sneak by and finish just enough of the animation to set the charge and escape. Overall, this section was way more difficult than I thought it was going to be, but hey, we finally got through it. After fleeing from what would otherwise be a very fiery end, I'm supposed to go meet up with Jade. But once again, she's nowhere to be found. She's been kidnapped, and to get her back, I'll be led into what I must insist is usually the hardest part of any challenge, the museum. The museum is entirely made up of gunmen, and if we're using previous experience to estimate how things will go, let's just say I'm not too excited for what's to come. So I'm gonna go ahead and guide you through what all I went through with this quest. First off, I have to take out Beavis and Butthead here. Just these two guys have been easily responsible for multiple deaths I've experienced in the past, so I decided to take it slowly. The plan was to sneak up behind them and hopefully find the perfect angle I can launch at least one of them into a set of chairs. Bonus points if I can lodge them under the stage. That ought to do the trick too. But of course, neither of them went where I'd hoped, so I had to utilize cover to the best of my ability to block their bullets until their impatience got the best of them and they pushed me. I kinda ended up bouncing them both off the trays a few times, and that was enough to take them out. But this wasn't exactly the smoothest start that I was hoping for. The next section was no better. In fact, I pretty much died instantly. Since this weapon's main method of damage is a charged attack, by the time I even get to an enemy to be within range, I'll be dead. So I have to somehow wait for them to come to me instead. The only problem with this approach is it's almost 100% reliant on their AI to just decide it's their turn to die. So as you probably guessed, this took me quite a long time. Only when there were 2 of them left did it afford me more freedom to go and attack them myself, but it still netted me a couple of deaths. All I can really say is thank goodness this game isn't like Dying Light 2, otherwise when I died, every enemy would have reset and this whole thing would have been a lot more tedious. The second floor was much worse. I couldn't even get to the second floor, let alone kill any enemies up there. I'm gonna fast forward the video just to show you how many attempts this took. My only goal was to get one of the gunmen and knock them over the edge of the floor, floor below where I'd have a much better chance to pick them off. But since my health was so low and their damage is so much higher, I died basically instantly to any gunshots. I've noticed sometimes when doing these challenges that the only thing you can do is throw yourself at the issue until you finally make progress. And that's exactly what I had to do here. After what felt like an eternity of bashing my head against the wall with no results, this guy fell to the ground floor and I could take him out. Then I just had to repeat the process a few times, the whole ordeal becoming easier the more that I took out. I even got to the point of counting the bullets and waiting for the enemy to reload before I made any moves. Where usually I like to die as few times as possible, this part of the challenge almost required I restructure the way I think. Instead of preserving my life, I started using it as a resource on top of everything else. So long as I got a little bit of damage on an enemy before I died, that's all I needed. Once they were dealt with, I ran past the next building full of gunmen, ignoring them, through the zombie pit. Then I knocked these two guys to the bottom where the zombies smacked them until they died, and I was finally able to move on. Last but certainly not least is the Tahir fight, and I won't lie, this fight is often the most responsible for me having to break the rules during these challenges. For some reason, his fight is so scripted to be done a certain way that unless you take him out in that specific manner, he usually just won't even take damage after a certain point. So I have no idea what to expect going into this. I didn't need any fancy tricks to be able to keep my sword going into this fight since Nighrunner Mode changes the way the fight is handled, so at least there's that. But for the first time in this challenge, since Tahir is immune to knockback, I need to rely solely on the raw damage of the weapon instead of the knockback effect that I've been using the whole rest of the game up until this point. To prepare for this, even though it's broken, I decked my weapon out with the best upgrades I could find in hopes it would up the damage even if just a little bit. Since I have the HUD turned off, that means we're not going to be able to see his health bar. Admittedly, this did worry me for a bit, since I had no idea if I was even doing damage. But after a little while of fighting, my worries were put to rest, because normally, at around the halfway point in the fight, he'll summon a bunch of his henchmen to come help him. So now I know for a fact that what I'm doing is working. This phase of the fight is annoying simply for the fact most of them are going to just sit back and chuck stuff at you throughout the fight until you deal with them. But luckily for me, these guys are affected by knockback, and there are plenty of spaces for them to get lodged into. And finally, after about 20 minutes, even the dulled blade of EXPCalibur was able to take out Tahir and end the fight. Honestly, as far as I'm concerned, the final fight with Tahir is pretty much the last mission in the game. There are a few others before the epilogue, but since you can just run through them and none of them require the use of any weapons or anything, I can get by with very little effort. The most interesting thing is when you interact with this door, it's essentially getting the volatile's attention and making the run back just a bit more interesting. But anyway, I give Camden the things he asked for, start the epilogue, and make my way up Rise's tower. We have the fight of a lifetime, and after stabbing him and letting him fall, we have officially completed Nighrunner Mode's Extinction difficulty with only the EXPCalibur. If you made it this far into the video, you're amazing. To be honest, when I first started this challenge, it was originally meant to be a developer weapon only video, but EXPCalibur is the only one that's not completely blocked by nightmare difficulty. But that's okay though, because it was certainly interesting just to see how far I could get in the game with it, and the added difficulty of not having a HUD made it an entirely unique experience. I had to have died at least 80 times in this playthrough, most of them happening midway through the story and the final bit at the museum. But it was such a fun experience, I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Special thanks to all my members and subs, I appreciate you all. If you liked this video, you will love this one where I play Dead Island with completely inverted controls. In the meantime, take care everyone, I'll see you in the next one.